You ever have one of those neighbors who just refuses to let you live in peace, no matter how hard you try? That's my story, or at least, that's how it started. You wouldn't believe the mess I ended up in, just because one woman thought she could run the whole neighborhood and maybe even teach me a lesson. But you know what? She learned a lesson of her own, and she'll remember it for a long, long time. So let me back up a little. My name's Dave Carter, and for the most part, I like to mind my own business. I live in a pretty nice suburb called Lakewood Meadows. Quiet streets, decent folks, nothing fancy. My wife Rachel and we've got 2 kids, Emily and Jake. They love to play in our yard, and honestly, all I ever wanted was a bit of peace and a safe place for my family. But you know how it goes. There's always that one neighbor, right? In our case, her name is Sandra Wilson. If you've ever met a real-life Karen, just crank it up a notch. That's her. Always got something to say, always peering over her fence, always finding new ways to make life difficult. It started with her letting her dog use my lawn as his personal bathroom. Not once or twice, every day. I finally put up a little fence to keep her dog out, thinking that would be the end of it. But nope. She came storming over, yelling that I was antisocial and against animal rights, whatever that means. Then she started picking on my kids, screaming out her window every time they were out there playing. "Too loud! Go inside!" she'd shout. I had to stand outside with them just so they wouldn't be scared. It got under my skin, sure, but I always tried to take the high road. You can't pick your neighbors, right? But last winter, things took a turn. See, I live about 5 blocks from Maple Ridge Elementary, where my kids go to school. In the summer, we'd walk, but in bad weather I'd drive them. No big deal, at least not until Sandra's kids started at the same school. That's when she started tailgating me on the drive every morning, honking, flashing her lights, shouting out the window, and I'm not exaggerating here, just because I was driving the speed limit in a school zone, stopping at the crosswalks, doing what you're supposed to do when there are kids everywhere. But apparently, I was ruining her whole day by being too slow, and she made sure I knew it. There were days when I'd check my mirror and, surprise, surprise, she was right behind me, like she was lying in wait. It's almost impressive, if it wasn't so infuriating. I kept my cool for a long time. I'm not going to get into a road rage situation with my kids in the car. But then the weather turned icy, and suddenly, it wasn't just annoying anymore. It was dangerous. One bad stop and she could have slammed right into us. I started getting nervous. Honestly, part of me wondered if she wanted that to happen. She seemed like she had something to prove, and it was making me tense every morning. Still, what was I supposed to do? We're both just trying to get our kids to school. If you live too close, you don't get a school bus. It's walk or drive, and I'm sure as hell not sending my kids walking through a blizzard just to avoid Sandra. So one morning, I decided I'd had enough. She was on my bumper as usual, honking like mad. Instead of letting her stress me out, I just pulled over, figuring she'd finally pass me and go on her way. But she didn't. She stopped right behind me, stormed up to my window, and started letting loose, yelling that I make her late every day, that I'm inconsiderate, that if I don't learn how to drive, she's going to make sure I regret it. Her kid is right there. My kids are staring, and all I could think was, what do you get out of this? I just rolled up my window, locked the doors, and waited for her to cool off. Except she didn't. She stomped back to her car, got in, and then, with a look on her face I'll never forget, she slammed her car into the back of mine. Just a little bump, but deliberate as hell. She looked right at me, smug as you please, and said, "Get used to it, Dave. If you don't speed up, you better get used to a messed up car." I swear, for a second, my vision went red. My kids were in the back seat, and she just didn't care. That was it. I was done being Mr. Nice Neighbor. I knew calling the cops wouldn't get me anywhere, not without proof, and she'd just deny it, like she always did. So I decided to fight dirty, or at least smart. I picked up a pair of dash cams, one for the front and one for the back of my car, and set them up before the next school run. I didn't say a word to her. I just waited. Sure enough, she kept it up. Honking, tailgating, flipping me off, swerving, you name it, all on camera. But I wasn't prepared for how reckless she could get. About a week later, we're rolling up to the crosswalk in front of Maple Ridge, kids and parents everywhere. I stop for a group of kids crossing, and Sandra, furious that I'm not gunning it through, swerves into the oncoming lane to go around me, almost hitting 2 kids and a crossing guard in the process. She slams on her brakes, yells at the crossing guard, and then gives everyone the finger as she tears off down the street. My dash cam caught every second of it. That was my breaking point. I went straight to the police, handed over the footage, and called my lawyer. I told him everything. About the deliberate fender bender, about the daily harassment, about the near miss at the crosswalk. He was stunned. "Dave," he said, "this is not just a neighborly dispute. She's a menace." We filed a report, sent a letter demanding she pay for the damage, and let the school know exactly what was going on. And that's when the dominoes started to fall. The school banned her from setting foot anywhere near campus. She couldn't drop her kid off anymore, couldn't even show her face at the pickup line. She tried to get other parents to side with her, but by that point, half the neighborhood had seen the dash cam video. I had neighbors coming up to me, telling me stories about how Sandra had bullied them for years, threatening to report people for lawn decorations, for leaving garbage cans out too long, for stuff nobody else would ever care about. The only difference was, nobody ever had proof until now. The cops took it seriously, way more seriously than I thought they would. With the footage, they hit her with a stack of charges: reckless endangerment, destruction of property, and a couple others I can't even remember. My lawyer filed for damages, and just for good measure, we let the HOA know exactly what was going on, in case she tried to spin it as me harassing her. She tried to fight it, tried to play the victim, saying I'd provoked her, that she was just protecting her kid. But with the footage, she didn't have a leg to stand on. Then came the court date. It felt like the whole neighborhood showed up, honestly. The judge didn't waste time. My lawyer played the dash cam footage, the tailgating, the honking, the fender bender, the near miss with the kids. Sandra tried to talk her way out of it, but the judge just stared her down, stone-faced. "You put children's lives at risk, Ms. Wilson. You're lucky nobody was hurt." She lost her license on the spot. Had to pay every cent to fix my car, and the judge even threw in a few days of jail time for good measure. I heard after that Child Protective Services got involved, and suddenly she wasn't looking quite so smug anymore. When I walked out of that courtroom, it was like someone had lifted 100-pound weight off my chest. People were whispering, nodding, shaking my hand. For the first time since we moved to Lakewood Meadows, I felt like I could finally breathe easy. Sandra? She disappeared inside the courthouse, head down, surrounded by reporters. All that anger, all that need to control everyone around her, and now she was the one paying the price. And you know what? She set out to teach me a lesson. But in the end, she's the one who learned what happens when you push a good man too far. So, what would you do?